everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Looks like some of you have been going through the documents. Yeah, lots of interesting things in here so far. This is supplemental number 4. This is somebody that lived across from the girls, across from King Road. But as I was going through this, I wasn't really able to figure out who this was. And I'm honestly perfectly okay with not knowing who everyone is in these documents, because there's some of these interviews where there's really nothing of importance. And in the ones where there are a couple of pieces, you can pretty much sort of put the dots together for who's who, if that makes any sense. So let's go and start reading this. This is, again, a 21-year-old Hispanic, Latina, Latin female. I don't know who that was. I don't know who that is, which is fine. They talked to this person on November 28th, 2022 at 12:42 p.m. And I guess where it took place, honestly, doesn't even really matter. Okay. She lived at King Road, and it's blocked out, across the street from 1122 King Road house. One of the people across the street was a former sorority sister. One was a classmate, and the other two were people she knew through mutual friends. She knew Maddie and Kaylee the best. Her boyfriend was best friends with Mogen's boyfriend, so best friends with Jake that lived in Boise at the time. So they hung out a lot. This was a current relationship. Mogen was in a class with her. Goncalves was a blank sorority sister. That's the name of the sorority there, I'm sure. She knew Xana and Ethan Chapin in passing. She lived at blank King Road for just the semester and is currently a senior in school. She lived in the sorority house for 3 years, and this is the first year outside of the sorority. She has been inside the 1122 King Road house multiple times, with the last time being in September. They came over to her house more often. She had known Mogen and Goncalves for 3 years. They met through recruitment. She saw Mogen and Goncalves Saturday night on the 12th. They went to the corner club after the game. Mogen and Goncalves were already there when she arrived. She was there for a couple of hours and was really drunk. She left before Mogen and Goncalves. It was sometime around midnight. Goncalves had jokingly mentioned she thought she had a stalker at Winco. A lot of people know this story. A couple of people mentioned the door. The thing about the door is that we're hearing more in the ISP reports about the back sliding door being open one day than we're hearing about the front door. So we just need to keep in mind that it's been both doors. Several different instances, both doors at different times throughout the past have been found to have been open after the girls had been gone and come home. Just open, which I don't understand why there was no cameras. Like, I understand that they're like college age or whatever, but whenever you're coming home multiple times and your doors are open and you don't really know what's going on, like, I just don't understand how at some point somebody doesn't be like, maybe we should call the landlord and have him fix these doors. And I know that there's a lot of discrepancy over what Jeff Kernodle said, but he never said he changed a lock. He was talking about Xana and her relationship with Ethan and how adult it was and how he was glad that she finally knew what it was like to live with a boyfriend and how he was proud of her for helping him, Ethan, get his grades up and do all kinds of stuff. And he said she changed a lot, not changed the locks. That was a big thing in the very beginning. So I'm glad that we figured that out a long time ago, but there's still some people that are sort of confused for that. Okay. Right here. She heard from another friend an instance of the house door at 1122 King Road being open after all the roommates returned from a weekend trip. She had a basement room and can see 1122 King Road house from it. She woke up at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. She didn't hear or see anything that night. 1122 King Road didn't have a party on Saturday night. They may have had one on Friday, but it wasn't crazy. They did. Mogen and Blank were a solid couple and had dated for a year. Blank was with her boyfriend in Boise that weekend. So this person was in Boise with her boyfriend that's friends with Jake at the time that this stuff was going on. But she says she was at the wait a minute. Didn't she just say that she was at the corner club? She was there for, this says this girl was at the corner club for a couple of hours and was really drunk and left before Maddie and Kaylee. But then down here, it says was with her boyfriend in Boise that weekend. I'm not reading that incorrectly, right? Like she literally just gave two different stories. Now I want to know who this is. Okay. Now this next one is written on, written on 11/21, and it's from an interview that took place on 11/18. Is this the one I thought might be Ashlyn, and then I changed my mind? I had a bunch of notes and highlights on this damn thing, and then my computer crashed and restarted everything, and it didn't save any of my highlights. So I'm going to have to go back in. No, this is a boy. This is one of Jack DeCour's roommates. I think this is Adam. I think this one's Adam, if I remember my notes correctly before they were freaking eliminated. Pretty sure this is Adam. He is roommates with what I'm assuming this says Jack DeCour. He has known Kaylee since freshman year. They were in the same pledge class, so they've hung out together periodically over the last 4 years. He has visited her house in Coeur d'Alene once. He knew Xana as well, but not as well as Kaylee. He also knew Maddie as well, but they didn't hang out a lot. Kaylee and Jack DeCour had been dating since high school. They're on and off and have broken up twice. They had recently broken up because she accepted a job in Dallas, but it wasn't in Dallas, it was in Austin. So they were settling things before she left after the semester. They broke up about 2 months ago. He never heard from Kaylee about anyone stalking her or giving her bad vibes. He had heard there was someone following her out of Winco a couple of months ago. He heard from friends she had someone follow her out of the Winco to her car. He heard that story from Blank, a sorority sister of Kaylee's. Blank is in California right now, and then he gave the person the girl's number. He works at Blank in Moscow, so he saw Kaylee, Maddie, and this would be Jack Showalter leave. This would be Corner Club. They're trying to hide where he works together that night. He watched them walk out the door. This was the last time he saw them. They said they were going to John's Alley and were trying to get some friends to go with them. They didn't end up going there, though. He didn't know where they were before they showed up at the Corner Club. Now, there's a later report in here about a girl that was already at John's Alley that Kaylee was talking to, that Kaylee tried to get that girl to come over to John's Alley. And then that's whenever she was like, oh, I guess they're just going to go over to John's Alley themselves. But the timing didn't add up because the bars closed at 2:00. And the timing that they had to have walked there and been at John's Alley, they would have had 3 minutes to even be around people. So, I mean, maybe they were just drinking and not really thinking of the time, but we do know now, which we didn't know before, that the grub truck was not the original plan for why they left. They didn't leave because they were tired and wanted to go get food and it was time to go home. They left because they were trying to go party somewhere else. And we didn't know that. We didn't know that at all until the MPD reports where Jack Showalter called them himself to give them information. And we didn't know exactly where they were trying to go until these documents, which I don't know why keep that from everybody. Why not just tell us that their original intention was to go to another bar, but then last minute they decided to go get food? Why make everyone for 3 years believe that the entire intention for them leaving and being escorted by Jack Showalter was because they were too drunk, so he was just being a gentleman and escorting them to the grub truck before the ride got there? No, they wanted him to go party with them some more, which is fine. So, but why make it something it's not? Why? Dumb. He had seen Xana at some parties, but didn't really know her very personally. He tried to recruit Ethan into his fraternity, but otherwise didn't really know him. He doesn't know of anyone who might have wanted to hurt any of them. They were really nice people. Blank wouldn't have harmed Kaylee. This must be about Jack. He loves her and thought they would be married. They have a great relationship even when they were not together. He is a calm, kind person. He's into sports, not an outdoorsman. He doesn't have a knife. He has never heard Jack even say anything bad about Kaylee. There was an apartment complex behind the victim's house that has a lot of sketchy people in it. There are registered SOs living in it. That place is behind blank Blake apartments. This would be the Whites. So behind the Whites apartments. There are windows facing the girl's house and it's adjacent to it. It's a brown brick apartment complex. And then they concluded the interview. Now, the MPD reports say that Kaylee mentioned somebody watching her in a tree line. I believe the Dylan one. Was it the Dylan one? I think it was the Dylan one that we just read yesterday, said that the person was in the apartments behind the house. In some of these other reports, they talk about how Kaylee went to go take the trash and somebody was at the dumpster, like behind the dumpster, watching her. So this is like multiple spots at this point, which really sort of like leans more towards she got the shit out that house and went to go live with her parents the way she did because somebody was stalking her. But the person that they arrested for the crimes apparently wasn't stalking them, according to the prosecution. So who was the stalker? That might be a registered SO that lives behind those apartments. Because we do know that she would look into that kind of stuff. I mean, I did. When I went to move my kids for the reasons why we had to move, I had very few things that had to be. There could be no SOs in our entire area. Luckily, I mean, it doesn't mean that there aren't weirdos that live around us, but there's no one around us for miles on the damn list. Miles. How? I don't know, because the world is disgusting. Okay? Somehow we got lucky. But she was looking up this stuff because she's smart. It's something that you should always do periodically because people move and change all the time. Always, like once every 3 to 6 months, check your area. There are free resources online where you put in your address and it tells you, and it tells you their levels of what they did. They're color coded. Very important to know. Very important to know. Okay, so this is supplemental number 6. This is coming from Pohanka, Detective Pohanka. This was done on 11/18, and this is a 21-year-old white female that he's speaking to. Okay. This was arranged for them to drive down to Buhl, Idaho, Buhl. Okay. I asked Blank how she knew the victims in Moscow. Blank explained how Kaylee belonged to the Blank sorority. Kaylee resigned from the sorority. Blank and her still remained friends. Like this girl and Kaylee remained friends. Maddie was one of Goncalves' best friends. Mogen was in class with Blank's friend Blank. So Mogen had a class with this girl's friend, who's this person right here. The girls would work on group projects at Blank sorority. Blank knew Xana through mutual friends and knew Ethan the same way. She is still in the sorority class, but does not live in the sorority house. She lives in a house which overlooks the backyard of 1122. She described how her room looks directly to the sliding door of the Goncalves house. So you can pretty much see exactly like where this house is at, where this place is. I asked her if she was around the victims the night of the homicide. She was with her friends, Blank, and began their night at John's Alley. She took a phone call from Kaylee to come down to the corner club. Okay, this is like pretty much exactly what I was just talking about. To come down to the corner club. She and her friends went to the club. Her friends slowly left from there and went back to their houses. Goncalves and Mogen were still at the club with her. With Blank. So that could be like anybody's name if you want to be so for real. It might even be that LM person, that mysterious LM person, which is coming up. Her interview's in here like soon here. Kaylee and Blank were planning on going to John's Alley to continue the evening. See, that can't be Maddie because why it wouldn't be like that. And Jack Showalter being invited was last minute, according to like multiple reports. Blank was talking to another friend and noticed Goncalves and Mogen had left. Blank went to the grub truck and believed she was about a half hour behind them at the truck. Blank, see, this is crazy too here. The same Lyft driver as Goncalves and Mogen. It wasn't Lyft though. He actually was registered and working with Uber until 1:15. That's whenever he apparently went off the clock for Uber and started his personalized driving. Which LM doesn't really seem to like the relationship that Eric has with the sorority girls, and she makes it very well known. I hope that his wife divorced him, because if not, she's about to. She's about to. Sergeant Cortez asked if she had any further contact with the girls, and she didn't. Blank and Blank fell asleep in Blank's room. She went to Blank's room for the night. She thought she remembered hearing music, but was not sure. She would she would have been able to hear if they were having a party. See, the music thing is important because that is in all of the reports about Dylan hearing music and Kaylee dancing with Murphy, and apparently she was even hearing singing. So I wish she knew for sure, but that would match. Blank. This is the part. Oh, this is the part that got me here. Who is in the video? Who sent it to you? And why were you listening in the background to see if you could hear anything? Is it because of the timing? She got a video from her friend Blank of Blank on her bed snoring. Blank tried to listen to the video to see if she could hear anything in the background, and she couldn't. To me, and this could just be whatever. When I'm reading this, I'm thinking, is this the video of somebody from inside the house snoring before everything went crazy? And because this video was taken inside the house, you're listening to see if you can hear anything? Because why would you be listening for background noises in a video that was taken anywhere but 1122 King Road? So this makes me curious. Sergeant Cortez asked if she was aware of where they were before the corner club. She thought they might have come to their house. Thursday night, Goncalves, see, this is where I was like, nah, you're tripping, bro. Because she even says later that she doesn't even think that she was here. Thursday night, Goncalves wanted them to go out. Thursday night, she was not in Moscow. We were told she didn't head down there until Friday the 11th. So she would have been home on Thursday night. Saturday night, everyone was out. She said the girls were usually like getting ready together. Like this was probably a cop typo and was supposed to say Friday, if you want to be so serious. Sergeant Cortez asked if she was aware of where they were Friday, and she remembered there was a game. She thought a couple of them went to the game but was not sure. A couple of them went out later. Sergeant Cortez asked if she knew where they were on Friday, and Blank knew Thursday night was a sleepover at the Blank house. Goncalves was not able to attend since she resigned from the sorority. You see, that's another interesting concept too. Because whenever it comes to this damn formal, again, the book says that they didn't go. And the people that they did these interviews with were there at the party on Friday night that they had at King Road instead of going to this damn formal that Dylan invited Kaylee to. And in the book it says, Dylan and Bethany did not go to the formal at the sorority because they did not live in the house anymore and they would not have had a warm welcome. So now we hear that there's a sleepover the night before and Goncalves wouldn't have been able to go because she was not part of the sorority anymore. Another one of those not warmly welcomed situations. So what really happened? Can we just get to the facts? Can we get to it? Did somebody show up for a little while to make an appearance and then y'all went back home? Like, why are we hearing inconsistent stories on this stupid freaking formal? Why? She thought Goncalves was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and she told her to come back. She was. See how, like, that's why this has to be like a cop error. She thought Goncalves came back Friday and showed people her car. That was the whole thing that we were told. The formal wasn't even a big deal. She changed her mind about going back because she wanted to show off her freaking Range Rover. That's what we were told from her own family. She did not believe anything they did. She did not believe they did anything on Friday night. Sergeant Cortez asked if Goncalves ever mentioned anything about a stalker. She described Goncalves as a, this is also, there's a couple things that are mentioned in here that really do make you believe these girls were not living as safely as their parents have tried to tell us. Like there's a portion in one of these where she's like, one of the girls, I'm not going to say which one because I don't remember which one, but the statement was like, they were the kind of person to just basically, get a ride from anyone and go anywhere. Let anybody come over, get in a car with anybody. And I'm like, whoa. Interesting that somebody else that hangs around them is noticing that kind of behavior, that they were just like that carefree. It's not safe. Not safe at all. So this is interesting that it says Goncalves was a person who would just joke things off. She believed there could have been a time where she mentioned something. When recruitment for the sorority was over, Goncalves went over to Blank House. They were talking and catching up. She thought she mentioned something, but Goncalves pushed it off as a joke. She cannot remember anything specific from the conversation since it didn't seem like a big deal. Blank thought if Goncalves would tell anyone about something strange like a stalker, it would be her ex-boyfriend Jack, or it would be Maddie. Jack and Goncalves grew up together and shared the dog Murphy together. Sergeant Cortez asked her if Goncalves said anything once her and Jack broke up, if he would want to hurt her. This is where I posted this in the community tab earlier. Goncalves described Jack to her as her child and was not a serious guy. They'd only been broken up for 2 months. They were together for years. It's just strange. Jack was in blank fraternity, and they all hung out together since they lived next door. She described Goncalves and Jack as a brother-sister relationship. But they were going to get married. What on the Alabama Mondays are you talking about? Like, Jack is apparently still telling people that nothing bad about Kaylee. He's still going to marry her. One of these days, he's going to marry her. And Kaylee's mom was like, oh, they were going to get married. So to sit there and be like, oh, she described him as her child, and then, oh, they were like a brother and sister, that's odd. And again, this is just this person's recollection, but it's an odd one. They shared Murphy the dog. Sergeant Cortez asked her if she thought blank would do anything to hurt her, and she believed he would never do anything to hurt her. This would be Jack. Jack was described as a city guy, and she did not think he did a lot outdoors. He was from Coeur d'Alene area and grew up with sisters. Well, so did the suspect. Is you just growing up with sisters mean suddenly that you're not guilty of anything? I guess that's a new one. Sergeant Cortez asked blank if she knew anyone that might have wanted to hurt them in their circle of friends. She said, this is interesting. A lot of people pointed this one out whenever I posted this in my community tab. Their circle is interesting, and that's where it kind of stumps everyone, because this group of people would probably never have been friends if it wasn't for the housing situation. That's telling. It honestly is very telling. All of the roommates' friends would meet each other and have friends hang out with friends. Sergeant Cortez asked if there was any mention of strangers around the house. She spoke about one of the prior tenants to the house. The house had a weird feeling to it. However, it was from several months ago. This is something else that is talked about a lot. The house had a feeling to it. The house didn't feel safe. The house had a strange, off-putting feeling to it. It's in several reports from people that used to live there. So that's interesting too. Sergeant Cortez asked her if she heard anything the night of the homicide, and she normally would. And okay. I don't like how they write things up here. Asked her if she heard anything the night of the homicide, and she normally would. They were referred to as the party house, which Olivia, Kaylee's sister, came out and said that like within the first couple of days, and would normally hang out in the backyard and play loud music. The night of the homicide, everyone had gone elsewhere to hang out. The sliding back door was considered the front door to the people who would visit. She didn't know if the back door was locked or unlocked. Blank talked about how the kitchen area, living area was the main place for them to hang out, and the door was usually open for people. We've heard that consistently. One of the few things. She did not know of any large knives in the house. Well, photos would say otherwise. Isn't it Maddie holding up a machete, and Xana's about to toss a watermelon at her for her to hack at it in the middle of the air, which is all fun and games for Halloween, but we can't pretend that that shit didn't exist. There's photos of them doing things. So there's that. Sergeant Cortez asked blank if Goncalves told her something about someone following her at the Winco. She had not heard that story. Sergeant Cortez asked her if she knew of anyone we should talk to, and she was having a hard time recalling anything. She talked how Goncalves and her would go out randomly and could not think of anyone to talk to. Sergeant Cortez asked her if she knew of anyone Goncalves was romantically involved with after Jack. Blank named this person and this person, who are both in the same fraternity, I'm guessing. She did not have any contact information. She did not believe any of the males mentioned would have anything to do with the homicide. I told her if she can think of anything to assist in the investigation to call. She mentioned how she would hear the dog Murphy bark, and she never heard him bark that night. So she's claiming that she's heard Murphy bark in the past, so him barking wouldn't be unusual. But on this night where he was barking his head off outside for who knows how long, actually, she didn't hear it. That's interesting. Okay. She had the television on and thought she had gone to bed around 3:30. She would be able to hear anything going on in the house since the windows are really high or are really thin. Thin. Really thin is what it says, but thin is what I'm assuming you're supposed to say. Blank could even hear conversations in the backyard. Ooh. That is really that's wild. Okay. Sergeant Cortez asked if the other roommates would have anyone who would want to hurt them. She thought everyone in the house were amazing people. Goncalves' boyfriend, and this is supposed to be Maddie's. This person got this part wrong. This should say Maddie's boyfriend was in Boise, not Goncalves' boyfriend was in Boise. She spoke very highly of him. Kernodle and Chapin were in a newer relationship and usually partied with the blank. Kernodle knew a lot of people and did not have any enemies. Blank and her friends created Instagram accounts and have their profiles private. Lately, they have been getting a lot of traffic. She added people can make a fake profile and would be easy way to stalk people. She mentioned a profile which had a pretty girl as the profile picture. The profile had been around for a long time. The name of the profile was blank, and she did not know if the profile was real or fake. So this is a specific profile that she had questions about before. I wonder how long that account had been around. At approximately 12:55 p.m., we concluded the interview. So that's interesting. Okay, this next one is supplemental number 7. This was written by, is it Mylar? I keep wanting to say Mylar because of the AR. I guess it could be Miller. This is, again, a 21-year-old white female. She lived at blank in Moscow, Idaho during the incident, and her backyard abutted the 1122 King Road backyard. She knew Madison, Kaylee, and Xana. She did not know Ethan Chapin. She was closest to Maddie and Kaylee. She was in the blank sorority with Goncalves. The rest of that house was in the blank sorority. Goncalves had dropped the sorority house membership that year due to financial costs. That's not true. Honestly, that's not true. The reason why Kaylee, according to other sources, was fed up with the sorority BB bullshit is because of what happened during the pandemic. Apparently, even though they were not allowed to use the school, they were not allowed to be inside of the sorority houses, they were still told that they didn't have a choice but to pay all of their living dues, even though they were not allowed to live there. So they had to live somewhere else during the pandemic while also paying all of their fees for being in the house itself. Plus, there was some sort of, like, if you live outside, you have to, like, pay these other fines and fees and shit too. So because they wouldn't budge, they wouldn't make exceptions because of the pandemic. They were making all these people pay all of this money to the freaking sorority for things that they couldn't even utilize. And she basically put her foot down and was like, I'm not paying you a damn thing. I'm just going to do what I need to do. And Maddie pretty much did the exact same thing. So she put her foot down. That's why she wasn't living there anymore, because she was like, nah, hell nah. Which, yeah, girl, same. Because what? How are you not going to make the exceptions? Why was the university allowing that kind of shit to happen? The pandemic was supposed to change everything that was structurally put together for these stupid Greek row structures, cult places. No, it doesn't matter that you can't walk into the house. It doesn't matter that if you show up, you're going to probably be escorted off the campus. You still got to pay your dues. I'm sorry. You're not getting a dime out of me. Nope. Goncalves was out of town most of the week, but had decided to come back near the end of the week to go to the pie. No, she didn't. I'm still leaning on no, she didn't, because that's what we've been told by people that were at the house on Friday. She wasn't going to be welcome. Dylan and Bethany weren't going to be welcome. So why do we keep being told that they went somewhere where they weren't going to be welcome? That's 3 people in a row that weren't going to be welcome there that we're supposed to believe went. No. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Friday night, Goncalves had asked her to go to the club, which she did not. She did not go out Saturday to a game. She did go out Saturday to a game day celebration at about 2:30 p.m. at the big blank apartment. She left and went to the game at approximately 4:40 while Goncalves and Mogen stayed at the party. That would be the one at the Whites where the infamous photo was taken. Saturday night, she went to the Dirty Goat, a local bar. Goncalves contacted her and wanted her to go to the Corner Club. She met Goncalves at the Corner Club around 11 p.m. Goncalves, Mogen, and a lot of other people were there. She had a small run-in with Blank at the Corner Club. This would be Cole. He was kicked out of the bar around the same time, or not too long before Mogen and Goncalves left the Corner Club. She stayed at the Corner Club until approximately 2 a.m. and arrived home at approximately 2:30 a.m. She was up until approximately 3:30 and did not hear anything. See, I don't know if this is the same person or not. I mean, I don't think it is because they mentioned a different club. But a lot of the other stuff is like the same. I wish we sort of knew, but then again, I really don't need to know everybody's name if they don't have anything, involvement-wise in anything. She woke up Sunday morning at approximately 7:30. Okay. I remember highlighting this one to be like, wow, 3.5 hours later, that's crazy. She woke up Sunday morning at approximately 7:30. She had been in a different room than her own. She and her roommates made breakfast around 8:30 a.m. Later, when she went into her room, she could see a lot of police cars next door. So 3.5 hour breakfast? 3.5 hours? You didn't go into your room for 3.5 hours? That's insane. She spoke with Eric. She knows Eric, the Uber driver, who told her he was pretty sure he had taken Mogen and Goncalves home that night. What you mean you're pretty sure? You know what you did. He drove a smaller gray sedan, a silver Prius. Goncalves' old room was the room Kernodle was living in. We had heard something about the room switching around, but there's also something in here about Goncalves having somebody living with her as a roommate over the summer. So it sounds like somebody was living in the room with Kaylee for a little while in the summertime, is what some of this stuff sounds like. I don't know if it's in this report or in one of the ones like right soon after this, but it's interesting. Okay, yeah. Goncalves' old room was the room Kernodle was living in. Goncalves recently moved into the room on the 3rd floor after Blank said she was not moving back in. See, that's why I sort of feel like this could be Ashlyn Couch, but this last name is too long to be Couch. So I'm not sure who this is. Goncalves did not seem at all worried about a stalker or any other dangers. She thought Goncalves would have said something if there was a real stalker. Well, multiple people know the stories, so I guess she was just selective, or maybe it just wasn't like a big enough deal for her to where she just didn't tell everybody and their mama. But a bunch of people knew several stories. Goncalves would have been scared if she had a stalker, and said Goncalves was planning events for them all the time. Her bedroom window looks out onto 1122 King Road's backyard. She can usually hear anything going on in their backyard. Murphy, the dog at 1122 King Road, usually barks a little bit, but she can generally hear it, which she didn't recall happening that night, which is, again, insane. So, again, this person, the same as the last report, is claiming. That's why it's hard to figure out if these are really the same person and it's a different story for some reason. Like maybe they forgot they went to John's Alley too and they mentioned another bar. But so much of this shit is like the same as that previous one. So it's not unusual for Murphy to bark, but the one night that he's outside barking his ever-loving head off for half an hour, where people from Walenta can hear it, you can't hear it, but you touch their backyard. I don't see how that's possible. Unless she was just like that deep into a sleep. But to say that you can usually hear it in other times is the only reason why I'm even making a comparison. She had booked tickets with Goncalves to... Oh, okay. Who was this? It's still not Ashlyn Couch. Y'all probably know who this is. Who is the girl that she was going overseas with? Who's the girl she was going to Europe with? Looking to see if somebody has an answer. Jordan. That sounds correct. I feel like I've heard that before. Yeah. Multiple people with the Jordan. I'll have to go back in. See, this is why I want to go back in now and listen to all of the documentaries that were done all over again. The ones that have interviews from people so that we can try to like maybe figure it out a little bit. It ain't Bob. Yeah, no, Jordan sounds right. She gave a speech at the memorial. Okay. Okay, so this would be Jordan probably then. Okay. She had booked tickets with Goncalves to go to Europe together approximately 3 weeks prior to the homicides. Goncalves had recently sold a white Subaru sedan for approximately $6,300 to a man using Facebook Marketplace. Goncalves had just purchased a Range Rover the previous day. Goncalves was making good money, but a Range Rover seemed expensive. It wasn't, though. Goncalves was recently offering to buy drinks for friends quite often. Now, see, I had a comment here before everything crashed and it refreshed, and it literally said, well, she had a big girl job and y'all were still in school, dot, 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 dot. I know a lot of people want to try to come up with a lot of stuff, and I'm not saying that I'm correct in anything, okay? All I know is that at my age and for the past decade, I myself has had multiple bank accounts because something would be for business, something would be for personal, something would be just for the bills. The kids had their own accounts. There would be one account where it was just like, this is my free money. Like if you're a budgeter and you're sort of organized and can handle multiple accounts and transferring of things, it's actually a really good way to stay organized so that you can bucket correctly, right? The Range Rover was a piece of shit. I just mentioned that earlier. We're going to get to that here eventually. But it was also a 2015, so it wasn't like it was something new. It was used as hell. She put a down payment on it, plus her grandma put another $1,000 down, and she gave them income of like $3,200 a month, I think it was, for money that she was making at her big girl job. This wasn't her being a waitress. This wasn't her going and working at Dutch Bros and making little coffees. This was a big girl job with big girl money. This seems normal to me. This part right here seems normal to me. And I know so many people make up so many things about the Range Rover, but it was a used piece of poo. That's the fact. That's the fact. Goncalves had planned to move to Texas and had a temporary male roommate arranged down there. We did see her post looking for a roommate. Oh. Did we hear from this guy? I feel like something came out with this guy, but it was like nothing because she hadn't gone down there yet. She had gone down there, but she hadn't moved down there yet. I don't remember. Something's telling me we have, but I can't think of like when or what he said. I'll have to look for it. Post-it note. Goncalves had an ex-boyfriend, Jack, who is Blank's neighbor. Goncalves said Goncalves and Jack dated for approximately 6 years. Goncalves and Blank dated all summer while Goncalves was up in Moscow working. So that probably would have been Jack because their breakup was only 2 months old. They would have broken up in like September after the summer. Goncalves and Blank were not together, but were good friends. Goncalves and Jack shared a dog, Murphy, together. Mogen had a boyfriend, which would be Jake, in Boise, who was friends with a lot of Blank's friends who had graduated. Goncalves stayed in her old room while she was living in Moscow all summer. Goncalves only had one roommate during the summer, Blank. Goncalves worked for Blank and ended up getting a full-time offer starting February 2023. She does not think Goncalves went out much during the summer. Blank just graduated and stayed in Moscow for the summer. This comment right here is what's confusing me. Because she was in another apartment before moving to King Road. And there's portions of stuff in the book and in the MPD reports where Jack is over at her apartment hanging out with her. And then she moves to King Road. So did she have a roommate at the apartment, or was this a roommate that she had at the King Road house? Like when she was still on the second floor was she sharing a room with someone in what is now considered to be Xana's room? I wish that they had like some more detail on that, because that's another person in the house. At some point that could be critical. We don't really know. Goncalves worked for Blank. Okay, we read that part already. She did not think Blank had anything to do with the incident. I think that's Jack because of the way that it's redacted. Blank showed a video from a party earlier on game day, which showed what Blank was wearing, which appeared to be the same as the person from a video from the grub truck. I think this is Showalter they're talking about. Blake remembers Goncalves and Mogen saying they were going to John's Alley, and Jake, I can't even talk anymore, Jack Showalter was going to go with them. Blank was not good friends with Goncalves and Mogen, but Mogen is kind of friends with a lot of people involved in the Greek houses. Blank is in the same pledge class year as Blank, Goncalves, and Mogen, and has been in a lot of their classes. Blank showed a screenshot of a group message obtained by Blank. This is 4 different name things. The author of the message seemed to know a lot of information regarding the homicides. I wish we knew more on that. No, she was starting in February, but she wasn't an unpaid intern. She was getting paid to work from home, like remotely. That's been a thing for a super long time. So yeah, the full-time position with an actual like label was coming in February 2023, but she was working and making full-on money working remotely at the same place. I want to know who this person is for them to say the author in the message sure knows a lot about the homicides. That's the cop saying that. Blank had read some creepy comments on YouTube and obtained screenshots of some of them. Blake turned over a flash drive with some of the comments. So this person was like putting stuff on. Here you go. Look into all this crap. I mean, good on her. She did not believe there was a party at 1122 King Road on Saturday night. People often use the sliding door as the main entrance for the house. She does not think it was usually locked. Goncalves and Mogen did not use anything. She didn't know Kernodle well enough to comment on her. The neighbor's dog behind them also did not bark at anything that night. Okay, so there is another dog, which we sort of knew because one of the people that claimed to have seen the front door open that morning was apparently walking their dog around like 8:45, 9 o'clock in the morning. But I wonder, I mean, look, I can, and I haven't even lived here that long. December will be 2 years, so barely over a year and a half we've been in this area. And I don't really talk to people. Like, we made good with the grandma of the neighborhood, which is all I really needed, because that's all you really need anywhere is the grandma. And even though she's the only person that we speak to, really, I know the difference between what her dog sounds like, what their two dogs sound like, what the other guy on the other side's dog sounds like, what the people back here's dog sound like, the dog over here on this corner. Like, I know the difference. So whenever people are saying, yeah, it had to be Murphy, I'm going to believe them because I know how I am with my surroundings and how I can tell where it's coming from and whose dog it is. And I, again, haven't been here very long. But it was one of the first things because in a situation where you have to be super hyper aware of everything, you learn those things. But it also comes naturally, too, by you just acclimating to your environment. So again, when people are saying the dog noise came from that side, it had to be Murphy, or it came from over there and it was the other neighbor's dog, I believe them because that's how I am. I don't have a reason to believe I'm special or anything like that. Okay, so then this interview ended. Okay, let's go to the next one. How long have we been live? 2 hours. Okay, we're going to go 3 full. So we're going to go another 50-ish minutes or so. Let's see how far we can get down here. Okay, supplemental number 8. We have Matt Wernsing, detective for District 3. That's another thing I'm finding interesting here. And maybe they did this the way they did this because there's multiple districts. District 2 is who's over Latah County. So I find it interesting that they felt the need to bring on a second district because that's an entirely separate group of people. That's a whole different department. I wonder if it was because some people were like so far up north, it just like worked better that way. So they didn't have to send District 2 people all over the place. They would just integrate in District 3. It would make sense that way. But it's also separate when it comes to FOIA requests. District 2, District 3, District 1, District 4, 5, 6, how many of them? There's like 7 or 8, I think. 6 or 7. There's a bunch of different ones. And each of them have their own FOIA email and its own step. So I'm glad they ended up doing it the way that they were doing it, or else it would be mixed cut. And we wouldn't really have known by just grabbing District 2 stuff that there was stuff in District 3 that we were going to need. We would have never known that. So I'm glad that they ended up doing it the way that they did that. Okay. This is a 22-year-old white male that they are speaking to in Parma, Idaho, in Canyon County. And there was an audio recording of the interview, but it doesn't look like any biologicals were taken. This is the first time you see Homeland Security is entering the chat. Now, I posted this in the community tab, and somebody said either her husband or someone that she knows, I think she said her husband. Maybe it was her brother. Honestly, affiliation doesn't even matter. They said that they help with like all kinds of stuff, which is probably true. But whenever you look up what they're for, it makes you question stuff. Because you already have so many agencies involved in this case. ISP. We know for a fact you brought in Washington, regardless of what the hell Fry tried to pretend, okay? Pullman, WSU, they were all helping before the arrest, before they had a name. The feds, multiple districts with ISP. What do you need Homeland for? Why was it necessary to bring in Homeland Security? That's my question. Let's just continue. Blank is friends with Goncalves and Mogen and was also their neighbor across the street at blank King Road in Moscow. He did not know the other two victims. Goncalves was in an on and off dating relationship with one of Blank's roommates. Blank and blank were in the same fraternity. Blank also knew Mogen's boyfriend, and he had graduated and was living in Boise. He knew Goncalves a little more than Mogen because she had dated Blank, and he said their relationship remained amicable. I don't know if this is Jack or not. I remember reading over this and being like, I don't know, because she was sort of juggling like 2 or 3 different guys. I mean, she was temporarily going to be there. She was just basically just doing whatever she wanted to do, which is neither here nor there, honestly. So I don't know if this was one of them or if it's Jack, because she technically was sort of like on and off with all of it. So I don't know exactly who he's talking about here. Blank and his girlfriend Blank were at his house on Saturday, November 12th. Blank went to the victim's house around 10 p.m. At approximately 10:45, Blank, Goncalves, and Mogen got a ride to the Corner Club bar located at, there's the address. This is LM, the LM person. And Goncalves and Mogen got a ride to the Corner Club bar located at that address. Blank believed they got a ride from an Uber driver named Eric. That's what that would say. He and his friends went to the Corner Club shortly after the girls left. So he went to 1122 King Road, stayed there while the girls left, and then afterwards they left. So this guy was in their house that night. That's what it sounds like. After approximately an hour, he spoke to Goncalves and Mogen briefly while at the Corner Club before they left. Blank told Blank the 2 girls were going to John's Alley Tavern located at 114 East 6th Street. We showed that on the map yesterday. Blank saw they were hanging out with another student he identified, this would be Showalter, and saw them leave the Corner Club with Showalter. Blank told Blank the 2 girls did not typically hang out with him, and Blank thought that it was odd. Blank and Blank walked to Blank's house at approximately 1:30 a.m. and stayed there. They woke up the next morning on Sunday, November 13th, went and got breakfast, and Blank drove Blank to his house at approximately 11:45 a.m. This is where I wish that they would pay more attention to shit. Because at this point, this person is claiming, oh, there was one police car outside the residence when I drove by at 11:45. This is why people are going to believe a cop was there before the 911 call, because of this statement right here. That's why we need body cam. That's why we need dash cam. That's why we need Nunez turned on the second he gets dispatched. The dash cam on the car turned on the second he gets dispatched. We need all of that in order to find out what's really going on here, because this is just someone's recollection. It could have been closer to noon. It could have been literally seconds after that first cop car got there. We don't know. But to say 11:45 and then that's everywhere and is not substantiated. I can't say it's not true, but it's not proven. This is somebody's recollection. Blank went outside with Blank and another roommate, Blank, and watched more law enforcement respond to the scene. So he is within looking distance. Blank ran to the victim's house and was there for approximately an hour and a half before returning. Blank was visibly upset and told Blank and Blank some of the girls had died and Goncalves was one of them. Blank left Moscow later on Sunday. Blank clarified he and Blank went to the grub truck on their way home, on their way from the Corner Club to Blank's house. He also saw on social media Goncalves and Mogen went to the grub truck after he, Blank were there. He and Blank were there is probably what it says. Blank thought they may have been at the grub truck between 3 and 3:30 based on when they posted to their social media. The grub truck broadcasted a live feed that captured the two girls at the truck, but it wasn't. Like, maybe they were. That's not the time for the girls. Blank thought it was odd that Blank spent so much time around the two girls. Now, remember, Emily also said that whenever she saw the grub truck footage and saw Jack Showalter and how he was like standing in the background or whatever, even Emily reported him as a tip to the cops. She said that herself. It came out of her own face. So I do find that interesting. Okay, this next part's really interesting. I hate that they redact this stuff. Blank had heard Blank may have committed the murder, but said Blank went home with their other roommates, Blank and Blank, when he and Blank left the corner club. Blank, fourth roommate, Blank Blank, worked at Blank, but would have gone home around 4 a.m. after closing down Blank. There were also two more students that lived above Blank Blank, Blank and Blank and Blank. They were hanging out with Blank Blank and Blank before they all went to bed. Why are you even trying to tell us this if you're not going to let us read it? At least give us some initials. At least help us not sound stupid. Okay. Blank told Blank he had been woken up between 4 and 4:45 because Blank and Goncalves' dog had been barking very loudly and uncontrollably. It sounded as though the dog was outside, which was odd because of how cold it was, and the dog is not an outside dog. So this is somebody else with a recollection of barking between 4:45, and they can tell that it's Murphy. They can tell. Blake did not know the two roommates that were not injured and found it odd that they were sitting in their rooms and slept through the whole incident. Because they didn't. It's because they didn't. Blank was not aware of any of the victims had a stalker, if any of the victims had a stalker. He mentioned a stalker from earlier in the year that lived in the Blank apartments that had already been reported to the police. See, this is the first time that we hear that whoever might have been back in those apartments giving Kaylee the creeps might have actually been reported to the police. How true it is, I don't know. I don't even know the wording to use with the little bit of information that we have in order to try and find this. Because it would be such a long date range of information that you would have to ask for in order for... I don't even know how I'd FOIA that. I have no idea. No clue. Okay, this is number 9. Warren Singh again from District 3. This is a 21-year-old female. Audio recording, no biologics. Okay. They went to Parma. Is that the same place they went to earlier? Yeah. So is this the same person? No. Okay. This is a dude. So this is the same area, but this is now a chick. Okay. Okay. So this must be the girlfriend of the guy that we just read, is what this was sort of showing. The interview took place at Blank's boyfriend's blank blank home located at blank. And this says what? The interview took place at Blake's home located at... Yeah, okay. So this is the girlfriend to this guy. That's what this is. On Saturday, November 12, 2022, Blank was at Blank College House, located at Blank King Road in Moscow, Latell County, Idaho. She called Kaylee at approximately 10 p.m. and went over to her house. Mogen came home from the Blank house shortly after. This is LM. So we just heard from LM's boyfriend. This is the infamous LM. I had that up here. Y'all are going to recognize if you saw my Unity tab post, like how far I got with stuff highlighted before everything crashed and everything's all stupid now. But this is LM. Okay. Goncalves had contacted a man by the name of Eric to give them a ride from their house. Blank did not know Eric's last name, but provided his phone number as blank. So I guess he must have like given it to her, or she either had it beforehand. But this was common for Eric to just give his number to people, his private number. When Eric arrived to pick them up, Goncalves got in the front seat and LM and Mogen got in the back seat. Eric had recently had a baby, and Blank asked him how fatherhood was. Blank said Eric was feeling down about it and let out a big sigh. Oh. He said it was harder than he'd expected and had been kind of hard on him. Sure, you probably were doing the least. Your girl was probably the one doing everything. That's how it usually goes with these freaking idiots. He also said his wife and kid were out of town. And he was excited to have the house to himself that weekend. Oh, I'm sure you are. So excited. Eric dropped the girls off at the corner club and told them he would be driving around until around 3 a.m. I bet you were. Okay. Lots of redactions, lots of different names. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different names. We're friends of the girls and we're already at the bar. Blank told Blank he would also go to the corner club. Blank and Blank shared a class with a guy named Blank who was also at the corner club. Blank began creeping Blank out by staring at her and making comments to her. Now, we already know that Cole was creeping out Maddie or doing something towards Maddie at some point, and he ended up getting kicked out. So this must be Cole and like another girl. Blank also spoke to Blank saying he needed to get her Blank GD phone number right now and was being kind of aggressive. Blank hung around the girls at the bar for a while. Blank said Goncalves and Mogen left to go to John's Alley in Moscow and heard Blank went with them, Showalter. She didn't see him leave with the girls, but thought it would be weird if it was true. That seems to be really like a common thing. Everyone's thinking it's just real strange that they're hanging out that night. The girls had apparently asked him to go with them as well, but he stayed at the corner club. So a second person was asked to go with them besides just Showalter. And that person said no. I wonder who that is. Who is you? Blank left the corner club with Blank at approximately 1:15 a.m. and went to the grub truck. They got food at the grub truck and went to Blank's house at Blank in Moscow to eat and go to bed. I asked Blank why it would have been odd for the girls to leave with Showalter. She said he was not someone she or the other girls hung out with because he was weird. He smoked a lot of Mary Jane. Leave her out of this, thank you. Had a temper and fought a lot. The girls knew Blank because he was a Blank or a member of the Blank fraternity. Mogen's boyfriend was also a Blank, and the sororities would often hang out with Blank. Goncalves and Mogen had sent videos of themselves at the grub truck to a Snapchat group around 2 a.m. We know it was a few minutes before that. Unless they took a video at the grub truck and didn't like send it through Snapchat until they got home, because they got home at 1:56. But we do see Kaylee in her phone. I don't really remember Maddie in her phone too much. She was more like real talkative and like saying hi to people. And she seemed to have had her hands like in the sleeves of that jacket a lot. But I definitely remember Kaylee being on her phone like hella, trying to see what she was doing. Blank had not heard of Goncalves having a stalker. She said the victims were pretty well liked and did not know of any issues the victims had with anyone. Blank thought Blank may have been working at the Blank the night of the incident, as well as Blank, Blank, and Blank. So this would be for one. This would probably be Adam. And this would be 3 additional names. Blank said there was a lot of, this is wild right here. Blank said there were a lot of Instagram accounts that were surfacing. The accounts had few followers, but were following many of the girls and making comments such as, "You're next. Thank God they're gone. And I'm going to do it again." What kind of sick freaks? Sick freaks. Blank thought Blank involvement with the sorority girls was odd. He would frequently, okay, here we go. If you watched my community post, if you have your bell on all, you saw this. Blank, meaning LM, the one that was with the girls getting ready, that got the ride with Maddie and Kaylee, with good old little goer over there. Goer, Eric. Blank thought Eric's involvement with the sorority girls was odd. He would frequently drop other rides for them and gave them his personal phone number. To me, that sounds like he had his Uber app active and would drive around with official Uber drives until he got a call from a pretty little girl. Then he would drop the paid Uber ride and go run. All married and shit. That's what it sounds like. He seems to pay particular attention to blank members. This started with 2 sorority girls that had already graduated and had passed blank's phone number on to them. So this has been going on for Greek generations. Eric and his nasty little behavior. The interview was concluded at 1:03 p.m. Like I said, how long? Either have they been divorced or how long until they get a divorce? Yes, Uber. He was active with Uber until 1:15 in the morning, and then he clocked out. So while they had his phone number, and it was technically a personal ride, he was logged into Uber that night. It's in the police records. That's why I said it sounds like he would get official rides, and then the second that he would get a phone call or a text from one of the sorority girls, he would drop the official ride and go run. That's what I heard. I mean, that's what people were saying. I just don't know if it's true. I don't know, but I hope that she did. And I hope she got the frick away from him because you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit, Eric. Oh, it's been so hard. It's just been so hard. And my wife's out of town now. You know, I'm all free for the weekend. You didn't have to tell them that. You nasty. You nasty. Okay. Beckner. Detective Beckner, again with District 3. Who are they talking to? 19-year-old white female. Let's see who this is. Very short. Okay. She's part of the blank sorority at the University of Idaho. She knew Ethan through his blank fraternity. She got to know Xana through Chapin. She didn't know Kaylee or Maddie very well. She knew Chapin and Kernodle for 1.5 years. She currently lives at the sorority house and had never been to 1122 King Road. She was at the blank fraternity house on Saturday night for a party. Chapin and Kernodle were at the party, the Sigma Chi party. She had never heard of any sort of stalking incidents. She was with Kernodle until 2 a.m. She took a picture with Kernodle and then walked home. Chapin and Kernodle remained at the party. She had no further contact with them. And remember, to this day, we don't know what time they got in that house. They have not given us a single time for Ethan and Xana actually getting back that night. Not even anything close. Kernodle had been dating Chapin for about a year. Everyone had a crush on Kernodle. I can imagine it. She seemed very just bubbly. She heard blank was at the 1122 King Road house. This is another part that kind of got me. And it reminded me what we heard about Dylan apparently at one point claiming that she just thought that it was one of Ethan and Xana's friends leaving for the night. That's why this part right here is important to me. Whoever this person is said she heard blank was at the 1122 King Road house after the Sigma Chi party. I'm going to assume that's what that says. Blank is a blank and a PC brother of Chapin. So somebody from that fraternity, David B., you know, the so-say person who all of a sudden was a sober driver and was driving around King Road at 4 o'clock in the morning. Suddenly. Yeah. Okay, supplemental number 11. Now we have Eric Pacina, who is again with District 3, talking to a 21-year-old white female. This person has a lawyer present. Blank had her blank present for the interview. Is this an attorney? I asked Blank to explain her day, and she stated the following. She said it was game day for college football. Her and her friends attended a pregame at the Blank apartment complex at approximately 3 p.m. She remembers talking to Maddie Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves at the pregame, where the picture was taken, and was sure she saw the rest of the roommates there. Blank remembers seeing Xana as well. At approximately 3:50, she said she left the pregame and went to the game that started at 4 p.m. Blank said she was going to help Goncalves get a ticket for the game, but Goncalves decided to not go to the game because Mogen wasn't going. After the game, Blank said they went to a place called Blank. Goncalves texted Blank and asked if she was going to the corner club. Blank said she would go after the fights on TV were over. At approximately 10:59, Goncalves texted Blank asking if she needed a ride. Goncalves' text read, "Me, Maddie, and LM are getting one so we can pick you up." Blank said she was at the corner club when she saw the message. So she was already at the destination where that she was supposed to meet them by the time she saw that. At approximately 10:30 to 11, she saw Mogen and Goncalves at the corner club. At approximately 11:30 to midnight, Blank left the corner club with her other friend and boyfriend and went home. Blank said after they got home, her friend Blank was drunk and she was trying to put her to bed. Her boyfriend went to bed in her room. I asked Blank how well she knew the victims. Blank said she met Mogen her freshman year and knew her through mutual friends. Blank said she met Goncalves her freshman year and were both in the same sorority. Blank said Goncalves was her best friend. That's why at first I thought maybe this was no, I got it mixed up. I guess it was Ashlyn Couch that would say that she was Maddie's best friend. So yeah, that would be incorrect. Okay, I don't know who this is. I'm just not sure. Blank said she met Goncalves her freshman year and were both in the same sorority. She said Goncalves was her best friend. Blank said she did not know Xana Kernodle as well. Blank described her as being a big party girl and would attend the same parties as her. Well, then you're the same kind of person then. I mean, what are you talking about? Kernodle was best friends with a lot of the Blank, which is probably the frat guys in Ethan's fraternity. I asked if Goncalves ever mentioned if she was ever followed or talked about some weird activity recently. She said Goncalves had never mentioned that to her. So all these acquaintances know about the Winco thing and about the doors being open and all those things, but the best friend doesn't. It doesn't really compute. I asked Blank if Goncalves had anybody who had issues with her. Blank said Goncalves never mentioned it to her. She said Goncalves was the type, this right here. Goncalves was the type to go out and meet random people at places like John's Alley and would get rides from random people. It's not safe. Not safe at all. Blank said Goncalves and Blank had broken up recently after a long relationship, Jack. I asked Blank where her house was in relation to the victim's house, and she said both houses shared a backyard with a chain link fence separating the two yards. See, this is like the third person now that has said that their backyards basically touch each other. Sergeant Hoaxie asked if she heard any strange noises. She said she did not. I asked Blank if Goncalves had always stayed at the same apartment. Goncalves said, she said Goncalves had stayed there all summer. Blank said Goncalves' room in the summer was on the main floor, which would be, according to the other report, Xana's room. At the end of the summer, Goncalves moved into Blank's room upstairs. That's why I felt like this was Ashlyn Couch, because of that situation. Because I'm not aware of anyone else that had like their name on the lease, but then we have another report up there that talked about it. There was just so many people going in and out of that house. It's really hard to like keep up with. Blank said she had heard from one of the girls' friends. They went to Coeur d'Alene for a week, and when they returned, they noticed the rear sliding glass door was opened. Did not know the date of the incident. Hoaxie asked about substance use. She said she never saw Goncalves or Mogen do anything. She said she wasn't sure about Kernodle. She said they probably had, but it wasn't anything that was prominent. Blank said we should talk to some of Kernodle's friends. And it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 names. I asked if there was any other information she feels we should know or any other people we should talk to. She said we should speak to these 3 additional people. And then it ends. Okay, we got about 30 more minutes before I close it off for the night. Let's see. Supplemental number 12. This is Hoaxie. It's either Hoaxie or Hoaxie. I'm going to assume it's Hoaxie. This interview took place at District 3's office. This is a 23-year-old white male. It looks like the home address is in Eagle and school is in Moscow. No biologics, just the audio of the interview. Okay. He lived at blank, Moscow, Idaho, while attending the University of Idaho. His house was across the street from where the homicide occurred. He knew Kaylee Goncalves since her freshman year at the university. Goncalves also dated his friend blank. Blank and him were in blank fraternity together. Goncalves was in blank sorority, which was down the road from his fraternity. He wasn't extremely close to Goncalves, but was friends with her. I'm assuming, based on context, this is one of Jack DeCour's roommates. Blank and Goncalves had been dating since their sophomore year in high school. He thought they attended Lake City High School in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Blake and Goncalves had been dating on and off for the last few months because Goncalves was moving to Texas or North Carolina after the semester. I don't know where the North Carolina thing came from. It was just something that this guy said. He didn't think Blank wanted to break up with Goncalves, but Blank was understanding. This is about Jack. He thought Goncalves initiated the breakup. There wasn't any turmoil in their relationship, and they were still talking and hanging out together. Goncalves and Jack also had a dog together, which lived at his house last year. Blank didn't talk to him about his relationship with Goncalves. Blank worked at the blank and the blank, so he worked at two places. He thought he might have quit the blank. So this is about somebody else? Is he saying that Jack worked at two different places but thought Jack might have quit one of the places? That's sort of what this sentence sounds like. He also knew the other victims, Madison and Xana. Kernodle had gone over to his house a few times to see his roommate Blank from the last year, but Blank transferred schools to Blank. So somebody that Xana was either dating or friends with. I know that her being like official boyfriend and girlfriend situation with Ethan was a big deal for her. But that doesn't mean that she wasn't casually dating other people prior to that, or this could have just been a friend of hers. He didn't really talk to Mogen, but knew her by first name. The other two girls, Blank and Blank, were younger, and he didn't really know them. He didn't know Ethan Chapin. His house was 3 stories where he lived with blank, 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 and blank. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. He and Blank lived on the top floor of the house. He never noticed anything out of place near his house or the victim's house. On November 12, 2022, the University of Idaho's football team was playing UC Davis at home at 4 p.m. He woke up that day, got some food, and started tailgating for the game. After tailgating, he went home and then went out to the bars. At approximately 11 p.m., he got to the corner club. While he was at the corner club, he saw Goncalves, but couldn't remember if she was with anyone. At approximately 12:30 a.m., a sober member from his fraternity arrived to drive Blank and him home. This could have been a number of people because there's more than one that's assigned per night, like per session. But I wonder if this is David B. I don't know. Who knows? As they were leaving the corner club, they were pulled over for an expired registration. The cops let them go, and he was driven home. Blank and Blank got home about 30 minutes after him. So I wonder if this was like somebody and Jack got home 30 minutes after this person got home. I wonder if that's what that says. At his house, he hung out and drank beers with Blank, Blank, and Blank's girlfriend, Blank. After hanging out, he went to bed, which was early for him. He never heard anything of Goncalves having a stalker until after her death. Goncalves worked at Blank, where he heard she had a weird person coming in for her. He heard this information from Blank. See, this is the first time that I remember hearing anything about somebody going into a place where Kaylee worked and like being weirded out, like weirding her out. Like I know that she was a waitress at a Mexican spot, and then she started the work from home thing. Then she didn't have to be a waitress anymore. So it had to have been that, because that would have been like the most recent before the work from home internship. He also heard from his girlfriend, Blank. Goncalves had a weird guy following her around Winco earlier that week. This information was from a third party. Now, see, it's gone from a few months prior to just simply the week before, depending on who is telling the story about the Winco situation. He wasn't aware of any of the victims using substances. He and his roommates, Blank. Why is that redacted? Like if this just says he and his roommates smoked something, or him and his roommates drank or whatever. Why is this blacked out? He never texted or called Goncalves. He wasn't aware of any recent parties at the victim's house, but there was one Friday night. He wanted us to know that blank heard a dog barking at around 4 a.m. Blank reported it to the police the following day after the incident. This person did not have any injuries. So that's another person claiming to have heard Murphy. Okay. Supplemental 13. Eric Pacina again. 21-year-old white male. No biologics. I asked Blank to run me through his day. Blank said he started his day at approximately 10:30 or 11 a.m., got some food and ate. He took his girlfriend Blank some beer at Treehouse. They started drinking prior to the Vandal game. At approximately 4 p.m., he said he went to the game. He returned home between 8 and 9 p.m. and had a sandwich. Then he took a 2-hour nap. At approximately 11 p.m., he woke up. His roommate was wanting to go to the bar. They went to the corner club, had a few beers, and hung out. At approximately 1:45 a.m., their fraternity president, blank blank, picked up blank blank and then drove them home. David B. is not a fraternity president. I don't know if it's the same fraternity president that we've seen speak, but the Sigma Chi fraternity president did come out and do like a side of the building interview for all of 30 seconds just to basically say that they weren't answering any questions. And that was basically verified for how the protocol was put together. Whenever Dan Eccles, is it Dan Eccles? I know it's for sure Eccles, starts with the D. I don't know. Darren Eccles? Doesn't even matter. Eccles, the guy who was in charge of some stuff over at the University of Idaho. When he came out and did his interviews, he said that that's how they structured it. For this college-aged young 20-year-old to be the person who was like the media go-to for the fraternity instead of like an adult, like someone in charge of at the university. You know what I mean? So there's that. I don't know if it's the same person that we saw talking or if it's a different frat president. After getting home, they hung out for about 15-20 minutes to check on his friends one friend who had consumed too much alcohol. Blank said he went to his room where his girlfriend was already in bed. Blank said they talked for a bit and believed he fell asleep around 2:45 a.m. I asked Blank if he heard any noises that could have woken him up. He said no. He did say his friend Blank told him he heard a dog barking between the hours of 4:15 and 5 a.m. Blank said it sounded like Murphy. I believe you. Murphy was a dog who was shared between their two houses. See, Jack's roommate. Blank said Murphy was at the girls' house that day. I asked Blank how close he knew the girls. He said, I'm like a handshake to them. Not a hug, a handshake. That's important. That's a decent description. I can understand that. Blank knew Kaylee Goncalves through Blank. They had dated for a while. He never really talked to Maddie Mogen. He was friends with Xana and had met Ethan at an event called Rush. I asked Blank if he had ever seen any of the victims that night. Blank said he saw Goncalves and Mogen at the corner club. Blank said they were with Blank. I'm guessing that's Showalter, but it could be Cole too because we've seen both, but it's probably Jack. He said they were heading to John's Alley. Blank said he heard Blank was kicked out of John's Alley, which would be Cole. That one would be Cole. After John's Alley, the three of them went to the grub truck and he believed they went home afterwards. Well, they didn't end up going to John's Alley though. Not from how it's been told by Jack, who was the one walking with them. And the timing, it wouldn't have worked for them to have gone all the way to John's Alley and then backtrack to the grub truck for the time they were actually on camera. It wouldn't have worked. I asked Blank if any of the victims were involved in the use of substances. He said he knew Blank, and Goncalves and Mogen had Blank. So we've heard stuff about Xana and Ethan technically in reports. We know that a blue substance was found on her desk, but so far up until this report, there hadn't been anything about Maddie and Kaylee. Now, again, this is just this person's recollection. We don't even know what this freaking says, but there's the context or lack of context. But here's this sentence right here. Sergeant Hoaxey asked if the girls had a party the night before or the day of the incident. Blank said he saw a bunch of people dressed up and walking up to the house with speakers. He believed they had a formal the night before the incident. So I'm really just like, at this point, under the impression that it was considered a formal, but it was something that they all put together for themselves because they knew that they weren't going to be welcome at the actual one. And that's why they took it so serious. Like, to the point to where Dylan went and physically asked Kaylee to be her date because they were trying to make it serious. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. Sergeant Hoaxie asked if he had heard about a stalker. Blank said he had heard from blank blank Sunday night. Goncalves was followed to her car in the parking lot at Winco. He heard Goncalves might have been followed in the store as well. Sergeant Hoaxie asked Blank how he heard about the incident. Blank said Blank's best friend FaceTimed her and said, "Hey, there's a bunch of police officers outside. Do you know what's going on?" Blank went upstairs and saw the officers taping off the scene. Blank said after the Winco thing happened, Blank told him a couple of weeks ago all of the roommates were out of the house getting groceries. When they returned, their sliding glass door was open. So was it a weekend trip in Boise? Was it a week-long trip in Boise? Or was it a grocery run? Or was there really just this many instances of the damn doors constantly being opened whenever these girls got home? Serious question, because these are several different descriptions of instances. And it's also both doors. Not just the back door, but also the front. Okay, I asked Blank if there was any other information he feels we should know. He said he had heard from Blank that one of the girls was downstairs. When she opened the door, she saw a person in a ski mask, made eye contact, slammed her door, and locked it. Now, the way this person is describing it would make you believe that it was Bethany because of this word right here. But that just probably means that this person's information has gotten a little bit mixed up because we know that Dylan went downstairs. We know that she's the one claiming to have seen anything. And so far, even though we don't really know for sure, there's nothing out there claiming this was Bethany. That was claiming eye contact. Nowhere, anywhere. It could happen, but not so far. Okay. Number 14. Beckner again. 22-year-old white female. Okay. This person's mother was present for the interview. She takes online classes and lives in Boise. She lived at 1122 King Road House last year while in the Blank sorority. She lived in the room that Blank is currently in. So would this be Dylan or Bethany? Okay, I don't know. Is this the one? No, it's too short. Okay, this isn't the same interview. Yeah, I don't know whose room she's talking about. Madison Mogen is the only one currently in the house that was in the house last year too. Mogen was her best friend. She knew Xana Kernodle very well and became close to Kaylee Goncalves. Mogen FaceTimed her that night, 12:40 a.m. Moscow time. They were at the club. Mogen was at the corner club. The conversation was only 40-ish seconds. Mogen was with her friend Blank, phone number Blank. So this is another person. That also could be Cole, though, because there was like some pictures or something taken between them two, too. Not sure. She communicated with Mogen every day. Mogen's boyfriend was Jake. He was with Blank group of friends Saturday night at the bars in Boise. He was told by Blank of a time at Winco when someone followed Goncalves out of the building to her car. There was also another time when all of the roommates at 1122 King Road went out for a bit, and when they came back, the back door was open after being previously locked. Multiple people know this story. It's wild. She heard Goncalves was walking her dog once. This is where the dumpster comes in. This is the first time hearing anything, at least for me, about the dumpster. She heard Goncalves was walking her dog once and had seen someone hiding behind a garbage dumpster. Goncalves felt someone had been watching her, and this was the month prior. So probably right before she decided, I'm not staying in this freaking house anymore. I really feel like all these situations with the person in the apartments behind them, the Winco thing, maybe there was just too much going on. And she was like, nah, I'm out this B. And went to her parents' house. She was graduating early. Why would you go back home when you didn't have to? she was still paying the bills. Like it hadn't been even long enough for her to have like switched over responsibilities for anything. Dylan herself was like, Kaylee paid the internet. Kaylee had been out that house for weeks at this point. And before the situation, there was no talk about that changing. She wasn't even graduating until December. I don't think she moved out. I think she just fled the area because something was feeling off. That's how I feel about it at this point. Too much hesitation. Too much emphasis on the hesitation that she had to go back from her own family. That part. Blank had moved into the 1122 King Road house this semester. Her boyfriend was Blank and lived in Boise. She thought we should talk to Blank. Last year, her friend Blank was contacted. This part really creeped me out. Who the frick is this weirdo? Last year, her friend Blank was contacted by a man she did not know, who knew her name and her major. Blake kept seeing this man. He once came up to her at the corner club. He knew Mogen's major. Blank is still on the lease of the house, and the guy was about their age. There's another report later on in there, and it mentions how there's like a 5'5" guy with like slick black hair. Talk about this idiot right here. Well, like, this ain't nothing but a quick thing to get rid of. Bye. Bye. I don't deal with idiots. Yeah, I get to reading and I'm not paying attention. Is that the only moron I have to get rid of? I looked over just in time to see Bella. Is that the only idiot? See, people come in here all the time that have like differences of opinions and we can have conversations. But whenever you come here being a little biatch, go home. Go back to your basement. Go back to your basement. He's the only one. They probably have like 30,000 accounts. What? Holy shit. Damn. Sorry, guys. Forgive me. When people come in here and I'm not paying attention right off the bat, just block them until I see it. Just block them. Little losers. I don't know. I blocked it already. Some Casey idiot with like a red thingy on it. KCHN3HU. Some loser. Just some loser. Sorry, guys. An hour of him talking shit. Well, y'all handled it well enough because I don't see a lot of people being mad. Like, it seems like y'all were just handling him. Woo! Well, I'm glad he's gone. What a loser. I saw just enough. I saw just enough. Okay, where we at? Okay, we'll do like one more. We'll do like one more. Number 15. This is again Piscina. And this is a 22-year-old white female. Actually, unknown female. Just 22-year-old female. Okay, this is somebody who already graduated. Okay, she graduated in May, and her name was still on the lease. She planned on returning to Moscow for work. Blank boyfriend Blank was living there as well. She would visit often. The last time she visited was Halloween weekend. So graduated, wanted to go back to Moscow to work, and currently her boyfriend lived in Moscow, is how this sounds. Okay. Madison Mogen was her best friend. Mogen, Xana, and her were in the same sorority. Kaylee Goncalves was Mogen's childhood best friend. Blank said she never hung out with Ethan. The last time she spoke to Mogen was a week prior to the incident via text. I asked Blank if Mogen ever mentioned anything about a stalker, and she said no. Like, this could be Ashlyn Couch, but I'm going to stop guessing that because I've thought that like 5 times so far. So I'm just going to stop saying that. Blank asked Mogen how the house was doing. Mogen said the house and the roommates were great. They had a good system in place. Blake was Mogen's boyfriend. They had been dating for approximately 2 years. Their relationship was good, and they never had any arguments. She never observed any arguments between them. Sergeant Hoaxey asked what room she lived in when she stayed there for school. She said her room was upstairs to the left and Mogen's room was to the right. So she was the one that was in Kaylee's now room. But we still need to remember that Kaylee's original room was where Xana was at the end. So where was Xana's room before that? Because there's video of Xana in like a jersey out front of King Road talking about how she'd been there for like 2 years. So what room was she in before that if the rooms kept switching around? I mean, I don't know if it matters, but I'd still like to know. You know what I mean? Okay. Over the summer, she still had some belongings. Nope, I skipped something. Sergeant Hoaxie asked what room she lived in when she stayed there for school. She said her room was upstairs to the left and Mogen's room was to the right. Okay. Over the summer, she still had some belongings there because she planned on going back. Towards the end of July, Goncalves texted Blank and asked if she could move into her room. Blank told her yes because she had decided to not go back to the house and stayed in Boise. Goncalves worked from home remotely and was home most of the time. Right here, Goncalves had a roommate who was living with her for the summer, Blank. So does this mean that once she moved into King Road, there was someone sharing Xana's old room with her? Or no, this would have been the upstairs room. See, the room stuff is getting confusing because of the timing. But this sounds like she had like someone in the room with her. Is how it sounds. I asked if she knew all the tenants who currently resided in the house. Blank said along with the 3 involved, blank, 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 and blank. Blank lived in Reno, Nevada. That would be Bethany. Now, there's a recollection down here that at first I thought was coming from Bethany because of this statement right here. But then you get into the context of it, and it's definitely more like it's Dylan's recollection. So sometimes the context can make you confused, is all I'm going to say. Especially right here. Blank kept in contact with her regularly. Does that not make you think that they're talking about Bethany? They're talking about Reno and talking about how this girl still keeps in touch with her regularly. To me, that would be Bethany. That would be Bethany. She met Mogen in 2019 and had been friends with her since. She said Mogen was the most anti-conflict person ever. She honestly seemed like that. Like just the way that I kind of like see her interacting with stuff, she does sort of seem like positive. You know what I mean? Like she always had like a positive aura on everything and would probably try to like lower chaos. It's just sort of the vibe that she had. Blank told her the Friday before the incident, the girls had a blank sorority formal. The formal was kept intimate. They only had people they knew at the formal and did not get out of hand. That's why I'm really thinking they just did it at the King Roadhouse. They must have just created their own formal because of everything else we heard before. I just wish we had some more clarification instead of the one or the other. It's really just dumb. Blank described the house she lived in as an open door policy, meaning people were constantly going in and out of the house. She was also scared of something like that happening. She would triple check the lock on her bedroom door because she didn't feel safe. Mogen would leave her bedroom door unlocked most of the time, as well as her window. There were times she would hear footsteps in the house and would blow it off thinking someone had just had a friend over. Sergeant Hoaxie asked while she was living there if there were any break-ins or if she heard of a stalker. There would be times she would wake up and would see the sliding glass door was unlocked. She thought it might have been from someone forgetting to lock the door after having people over for the night. I asked about other times the glass door was found unlocked or opened. Blank told her a while back they had all gone out. When they got back, they noticed the sliding glass door was open. So this would be one of the girls that lives there telling this story to her. The girls were usually pretty good at making sure the doors were locked. Most people would use the front door. Only their close friends would use the sliding glass door in the kitchen. She had 3 different... Is this the guy? This is the guy. She had 3 different run-ins with a white male who she described as 5'5", fit build, slick back hair, clean shaven, possibly mid-20s. The first time at the corner club, he approached her and called her by name. Blank did not know him. He told her he had come back and changed his major. A little while after the incident during Parents' Weekend, so the weekend before the incident, Blank saw the same guy at a restaurant called Nectar. He was sitting at the bar with his back to her. As she was leaving, he turned and stared at her as she left. She told her boyfriend about the weird guy she kept seeing. The third time was walking down the street in town. The male was with a group of guys across the street. He turned and stared at her as she walked by. She told her boyfriend about the guy. Her boyfriend was going to talk to the guy, but she did not let him. She never figured out who the guy was, but did remember what he looked like. Okay. Sergeant Hoaxie asked Blank if Goncalves ever talked about a stalker. Blank told her about a time at Winco where Goncalves thought somebody was following her. Recently, Goncalves told Blank she took out the trash to the dumpster located across the parking lot and felt there was a figure standing around close by. Goncalves texted her friend Blank and asked her when she would be home. Goncalves was home alone at the time. So this is a second person that knows about this dumpster story. So there's the apartments behind the house with some SO creeper from, the context. And then we have a tree line story, which is technically in between the house and those apartments. Now we have a dumpster story. And the door is being open and all the other things. Like, this is not an okay area. It's way too unstable. Way too unstable. Sergeant Hoaxie asked if she heard about how the girls' day had gone. She heard about the day's activities from Blank and through Snapchat. Blank said they had a really good day and had fun. It sounded like they started at their house and went to the Blank apartments. She believed at some point Kernodle and her boyfriend, Blank and Blank, went back to the house because they weren't 21 years old. Mogen and Goncalves then went to the corner club. Blank told her the last text he got from Mogen was she just woke up from a nap and was going to the corner club. Yeah, that's something else we heard, that they had all taken like a 2-hour nap or something. And I think they said they all set their alarms for like 8 p.m. Like pretty much everybody in the house took a nap. I asked Blank if Blank had mentioned what she thought happened. See, this is where I'm like, okay, so you're mentioning Reno, Nevada. You're mentioning how you're constantly still talking to her. And then they have this statement. And I'm like, oh, this has to be Bethany. But it's not. Like, the context makes you lean to it being Dylan. So keep that in mind as we're reading this. Okay, it was game day. So everyone had been drinking. Blank told her she wasn't sure when Kernodle and Chapin got home. Kernodle was with Blank, and they were home before Mogen and Goncalves got back. Blank told her she went upstairs and ate grub truck with Mogen and Goncalves. She went back downstairs to go to bed. I asked Blank if Blank mentioning seeing anybody else in the house or if anybody came home with Mogen and Goncalves. She said no. It sounded like it was just the three of them eating grub truck. So what happened to the fourth person? Because according to what we were told by good old Judge Hippler, Dylan and Bethany were both upstairs with both Maddie and Kaylee, which would be 4. And this statement right here is all kinds of cracked out because you just said, this person said that she was told she wasn't sure when Kernodle and Chapin got home. Then it says Kernodle was with Blank, which is crossed out. Why? Why, if it's Ethan, why is it crossed out? So this can't be Kernodle. Kernodle was with Blank, and they were home before Mogen and Goncalves got back. No, they weren't. So this name right here cannot be Xana. It has to be either Bethany or Dylan, depending on who this is coming from. I think it's coming from Dylan's recollection. So this would have to be Funk. Was with Blank, and they were home before Mogen and Goncalves got back. Or it could be Dylan, but it's not Kernodle. You just said you didn't know what time they got home, and now you're trying to say, oh, she was home before they were. The police didn't even bother to check any of these things. That was not anywhere near as many problems as the court records themselves, but names not being put in correctly screws a bunch of stuff up. And these two sentences cannot exist in the exact same paragraph. Blank told her she went upstairs and ate grub truck with Mogen and Goncalves. Now, again, because Dylan's on the second floor and Bethany's on the last floor, this could be either one of them. Technically. I asked Blank if Blank mentioned seeing anybody else in the house or if anybody came home with Mogen and Goncalves. She said no, it sounded like it was just the 3 of them eating grub truck, which again, where's the 4th person? Now, this is where it turns into where, oh, this must be Dylan's recollection. This part right here. Blank told Blank she woke up around 4 a.m. to music playing. She hoped Goncalves would turn it off soon. Blank said she could hear Goncalves and their dog, Murphy, play upstairs. Shortly after that, Blank told Blank the music turned off, and she heard Goncalves say, "I think someone is here." Blank told Blank she heard someone run upstairs and run back down. So to me, this is, you hear Kaylee already on the 3rd floor above you playing with her dog, and you hear her music that you say is coming from her dancing with Murphy turn off. Then you're claiming someone is going up the stairs and then back down. Well, how can the person going up the stairs and then back down be Kaylee if she has turned off the music on the 3rd floor and you didn't say they came back down, went back up, and came back down again? Because that's the only way that that works. Right? That's the only way that that works. Blank said she peeked out of her room and did not see anything, but could vaguely hear someone in the bathroom. She called Blank and told her to come down to her room. This would be, she called Bethany, and Bethany told her to come down to her room. After a few minutes, Dylan told her she opened her bedroom door and saw a person standing there, and they made eye contact. Blank said he then walked out the sliding glass door. So again, we have someone claiming that it was witnessed, this person walking out the slider. The cops pretended for how long now that they had no clue. No idea which door the person used. We don't know. No direction. No clue. Why lie? Weird, bro. Why lie? And again, the eye contact thing. The eye contact thing is really important because this chick was not as intoxicated as she's been lying to everyone about. We learned that in the last live. And there's apparently some more things that come out about just how much she wasn't drinking later on in these reports. So why make yourself out to be some sloppy ass drunk on a night where you apparently weren't? Why are you trying to make it to where your memory has an excuse? Odd move, bro. Sergeant Hoaxie asked if Blank had described this person to her. Blank told her she felt hazy, but didn't remember many details. Blank told her she thought the person was about her height and had his face and forehead covered. Blank said she ran to Bethany's room and locked the door. Sergeant Hoaxie asked why she thought someone would want to harm her friends. She thought it was someone who was watching. She was afraid of that. And here we come with this portion of it that I was mentioning earlier. She always had an uneasy, weird feeling at the house, which was one of the reasons why she did not want to go back. Could it also be the same reason why Kaylee didn't want to be there? Could that also be the main reason why everything that the cops keep alluding to was that the house itself was the target? But who knows, honestly. She felt the house was easy to get into and easy to watch because they didn't have any blinds over the windows and the layout of the house, which the layout of the house seems like you would be really like, it would be difficult to figure out if you didn't live there. It looks confusing as shit. And we've been looking at it for almost 3 years now. And even now I'm like, I'd be like feeling like it was a maze. The house was very strangely built. Blank had told Blank the sliding glass door was broken at one point. If the door was jiggled just right, the door would unlock. If the front door was locked, you had to enter the code on the keypad. But if the deadbolt wasn't locked, the door could be opened. I asked Blank if there was anyone else we should talk to. We should talk to Blank. And then the interview conducted. And that's it. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. All right, you guys. See y'all.